Why can't we know? Why can we know things about restaurants, like the service, the customer service, the food, everything like that? Why can we know facts like that? Why can't we know about the abuse that occurs in mental facilities and assisted living homes? Hi, my name is Liza, and today I'm going to talk to you about the abuse in mental care facilities. So, for example, I'm going to tell you a story about an old man cared for by his family, loved, and had a mental disease such as dementia. So, his family took care of him while he was starting to decline, and in that time, they were going to take him to these care facilities because they were no longer able to care for him on their own. They went, they did their research. Without having much information out there, they came to the best conclusion that they could and put him in a care facility that they thought was best. Based off minor ratings off of government websites that kind of indicated things such as how the food was, kind of like a very general description as to how the care was. So with this information, they went ahead, came to the conclusion that this would be the best place for them. So when they put this person in there, it was pretty far away, so they couldn't go see them very often, and they didn't see him when they first transferred him over to this facility. Within good trust, they put that loved one in their care, and they went and they took kind of a leap of faith, hoping that they would be able to care for them better than the family themselves would be able to, which is what most people do in these situations. So with this, the family didn't speak to the individual who they put in the care of the other people because they were hoping that they were getting the care that they needed. After many months of hospitalization, they finally found out the right dosage of meds. So they put him in this facility with those dosages of meds, hoping that they would keep the patient on them and help them thrive. After a few weeks of letting the whole transition settle in, the family went to go see this man. After going and driving about maybe 2.5 hours to go find the facility in which they placed him, they went to a place and they pulled up and it didn't seem right. They kind of looked, it was in the middle of nowhere, it was kind of sketchy, didn't really make kind of that homey feeling in which you would put a face to an assisted living facility. You'd think, oh, it's bright, it's cheery, it's got a garden full of flowers, it's in the middle of a community, either a residential or kind of in the middle of a city, so they can have ease of access and it looks kind of normal. No, this place was kind of run down, kind of abandoned looking. This place didn't look like a care facility like that. It looked like a place where you go on Halloween to try to find something haunted, like this school, for example. So we went in, and at the time it looked like it was deserted. It looked like nobody was there. It looked like there were no staff, nobody, no cars, no people, no nothing. So we went, and for some reason the people didn't go in. So after that, they went back home, they gave the people a call, and they got no answer. With that, they went ahead, they got a little bit of an uneasy feeling in their stomach. With this uneasy feeling, they did a little bit more research. They couldn't find anything proving that this place was actually legitimate, and they kind of felt unsafe and insecure about the decision that they made to put their loved one in this facility. With this, they realized there wasn't really a lot of information out there to kind of determine what kind of place there was in terms of care and how valid the place is and how legitimate the place is. This kind of struck a chord into realizing that there needs to be more information like this put out in the public. Once they did their research, they went ahead and went back to the place. After some personal investigation, probably not some legal investigation, they went around the property and realized it was kind of a rundown place. Didn't look like there was literally anybody there. And they realized what's going on with the person that we put in there. After a little bit of research, calling the police just to make sure that they could check it out and see if everybody in there is okay, just because it didn't look like a normal place, because it just didn't feel right. So after calling the police did an investigation, and they realized that place wasn't legitimate. They weren't caring for any of the people that were living there. The people who had been put in there were put in there, they gave their deposits to the people who were in charge of the place, left the people, had them transferred over there, had the people there, and they didn't really visit because it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. So those people were using the medications that the patients were sent with and the money that the patients were sent with for God knows what, but it wasn't for caring for those patients. And so those patients, although entrusted into the care of those people, were being used for the drugs that they were given in order to help them sustain a sensible mental capacity, and they were being used for the money that they paid in order to stay in those homes. So after some research, the police did some investigating, and they couldn't find a legitimate owner to this location. And after not being able to find a legitimate reason or a legitimate person who was in charge of this place, they went and took a look into what was going on. They couldn't find who the owner was. They couldn't find why this place like what the reason was behind this place being invented. They couldn't find where the money was going, they couldn't find where the medications were going. With this, they went ahead and took all the patients who were in there and put them in hospitals in the nearby area to try to put them back into the state they were in before they went into those places. For some, it took restraining them into hospital beds because after a certain amount of time without their medications, they became violent. Some people it took sedating, some people it took coercing, it took many different forms of like getting them into the hospital to try to get them to go with them because they were so out of their normal minds to where they didn't really believe anybody. And so at this point, the patients had to be taken essentially from ground zero and put back to where they were because of the fault of others. And so things like this, they take months to recover from, and they make the patients go through kind of a really hard time in terms of like their physical and biological clock, I guess, because once you get set back like that, it's hard to get back to where you were, especially with all the medications that they were on. So this leads me to kind of explain more of what the whole point of this is. So yeah, I kind of gave you like a really sad story about what happened to this man who actually was my grandfather. However, with this, I realized that there wasn't a lot of information out there in terms of these care facilities. Yeah, you get these ratings supported by the government that are like, oh yeah, this place is really, really good. This place has 5 stars, they have great patient care. But when you look at it, especially with places like Medicare.gov, they do have this information out there. However, in one of their portions of the website, it does say that the places themselves write up these reviews. So even though they are government posted, not a government official doesn't always approve of these like ratings, and they don't always say like, this is actually what happens. They don't even always go through the place. So it could be valid, it could not be valid, and this is how like a lot of abuse does get overlooked in places like these. And it's not even just abuse such as like neglect, but like emotional abuse, physical abuse, stuff like that as well. So for my speech, I did kind of take a look into what you could do in a sense of getting more information, and there isn't a lot of information provided. In one of my previous speeches, I did have a call to action to write a note to the government, to the County of Ventura, in regards to getting more information out there. It was hopefully really beneficial. I did send it off to them. However, this kind of led me to my whole topic, which was, these care facilities, and I hope my personal experience did kind of, open up like a little portion of your mind to realize like, there's not always a lot out there, even though there kind of looks like there is. It's not always a lot, and it's not always accurate information. So thank you guys for listening.